how's it going, everybody? My name's Carpo, and this is a YouTube video about guns, I suppose. And you know, the one lesson that I've learned online and elsewhere is actually long before the internet even really existed for the general public. It was one of those old sayings: there's two things you don't talk about at work: politics and religion. And gun rights tend to fall right in within the politics, but they also fall within religion. The whole idea that, well, I won't even go there. We all know where it goes. People have their different opinions on weapons, firearms, and I've never even talked about the issue because it's such a hot button topic that anyone who has an opinion on it isn't willing to really listen to the other side. And since I occupy a position somewhere in the middle, I figured that it would be worth talking about after what happened the other day. Now, the shooting in Vegas is absolute tragedy. I mean, it's only, very few things really bring tears to my eyes. But it was just, I felt such empathy for those people. And it's nothing new. It's nothing that doesn't happen every day in other countries. It's not like there are mass shootings every single day in other countries, but there are at least some sort of a terrorist attack or mass disaster. Something happens every day. We are so inundated with media and news that we are under the impression that the whole world is out to get us. Every negative thing that somebody does in the government, every negative thing that somebody does religious-wise, it's caused us. An example is that people will demonize an entire religion of Islam merely because of a few extremists. And it would be just as equal to, blame the whole of Christianity because there's a few extremists within that group. And when you start to talk about religion, then it goes completely off track. I'm sticking to guns on this subject, but I'm not promoting the idea that we need to ban guns. People have often used this, for example, when Obama took office, I remember the comments online that, oh, he's going to take our guns and he's the Antichrist, and, after he left office there were more guns than ever before. And this is because the president has no power to ban guns. The president is a figurehead, and as much as people want to blame Trump for the problems that are happening today, you have to realize it's just the same. Even if you were an Obama supporter and now you despise Trump, I see the guy as the epitome of what an emotionless asshole really is. But that's my opinion, and I can stick with other people who have a different opinion. In other words, I can still converse with those who want to say, hey, look, he's opening up all the corruption and he's showing what's wrong with the country. And I was like, hey, that's fine. I have nothing wrong with that. It's just about how we deal with the situations at hand. But when it comes to guns, anyhow, I've even heard people recently saying, oh, now Trump's going to try to ban guns. And it's just like, what are you talking about? Supposedly Trump was going to be the savior that was going to allow you to keep your guns, and it was Hillary that wanted to take your guns. I don't want to get into the political aspect of it, but the reality is nobody is taking your guns. In America, there are more guns than people, okay? Now, people want to compare America to Australia and say, look at what happened there. Because in '96, there was a major shooting there, and from there on, they basically banned guns from the general public. People can still obtain them in certain circumstances, but you can't just go down to the store and buy a gun. And it has definitely made an impact, but as to whether or not that's the actual gun law that's done that, it remains to be seen. Here's the American, theory that if you take away the people's guns, the criminals will still be able to obtain guns, which is true, and that the people won't be able to protect themselves against the criminals. Now, that is a totally legitimate fear, and that may not be a same legitimate fear in other countries. In other words, many countries who have much lower murder rates or much less chaos, arming every citizen with a gun is only going to make more guns available for others to steal or to come across or find, more accidental shootings. It's up to the gun owner to be responsible with their weapons. But how many times do we have to hear about a kid shooting another kid? There was another kid who shot some kid at daycare the other day, like a 4-year-old. And I'm like, how can you run a daycare and have your gun just sitting around? These are accidents, and these don't assume that everyone who has a gun is irresponsible. I know people who have multiple locks on every gun. People are very cautious, gun safes, whatnot. But we got to get past the issue of what we're trying to protect ourselves against is each other, not the government. But we definitely want to be able to protect ourselves against tyranny. And the forefathers, we've heard all the quotes about how we need to be able to arm ourselves against, a tyrannical government. The reason I'm talking about this now is because here we have a 64-year-old man who strategically planned a mass execution in the Sin City, if you will, right in the middle of a huge population of people. The people he was shooting at were country fans that were at a country concert, at a harvest festival. The guy himself was a white guy, 64, not religiously affiliated as far as we know. Had no real gripes as far as we know. He was what we would call a rich white man. And he did something like this. It's absolutely absurd. All the conspiracies come out of the woodwork. That he was framed, that it wasn't him, it's a false flag attack, again, to take our weapons. But here's where it gets interesting, if it was really a false flag, let's just say that this guy was set up for this whole thing was totally a setup. Why would they use a 65-year-old white male? They wouldn't. They would use a 22-year-old Muslim or someone from another culture which could continue the culture of fear that allows us to say, look, terrorists are trying to get us. I don't have a fear of terrorism. I know that there are people out there that want to do harm to others. But I know that more of them aren't really opposed to people. They're opposed to tyranny. And our government has been going... we've been continuing as the colonizing, country for hundreds of years. We have bases, army bases in most countries that we're allowed to. We are basically like these domineering, control freaks who want to set up everything else as a democracy so long as it supports our democracy, what we consider. The problem people have with this shooting is that it's a lone wolf shooter. They want to find somebody else to blame. They want to say that there was someone shooting from the 4th floor, that somebody else had, told him to do it. All these are possibilities, and I'm not going to, dispute what the reality of it is. The fact is, what we do know is a lot of people died, and it was a horrible event, and it opens up the dialogue, but then there's people who are saying, this is no time to talk about guns. This is no time to talk about, gun rights or anything like that. And I say bullshit. There is no good time to talk about guns. I believe that every American citizen should be entitled to own a firearm if they choose. But they should also, at a point, be able to show that they're responsible with those firearms. There's a reason why you have to, the concealed weapons, carry permit is a joke. Just because you take a class doesn't mean you're responsible with a firearm. But at least it gives people an understanding that, those who are concealing weapons, at least legally, are doing so with the understanding of how to properly, when to brandish and when not to. It doesn't, it comes down to individuals. This is the hardest issue to even discuss because, I grew up, my father enjoyed shooting guns. I really enjoyed shooting the .303 when I was a kid, and the .357, and he had an old .32 from World War II, and I enjoyed shooting. I was good at targets. Really, had a fun time as a kid, but I didn't carry that into my adult years and thinking that I have to have a bunch of guns. I'm not interested in guns, but I know other people are, and if they are, so be it. So as an American citizen, I say I have nothing against weapons, but where do we draw the line? It was, they were supposed to pass a law here that was going to go in about silencers and a couple other gun issues. They tried to legalize silencers a few months back, and then there was that Scalise shooting at the baseball game. So they put it on the shelf and delayed it because they didn't want to legalize silencers right after someone was killed, in Congress. So they wait, and then they decide they were going to pass this week. And lo and behold, this shooting happens. So, if you look for the article, they put it on the back burner again and said, oh, well, we probably shouldn't bring this up. But they didn't get rid of the idea, they just moved it down the line. And their theory as to why we need silencers is, well, hunters' hearing protection. Now, I'm going to call complete absolute bullshit on that. I know hunters. You can easily put on a pair of earmuffs, and sure, a silencer may help you in the short run, but, how loud is a gun? How often do you shoot the gun when you're hunting? You're not just out there blasting like crazy. You can easily take your time and put in your earplugs and take the shot. But having a silencer is something that may be beneficial to some people, but may also allow others to, to silently go around killing a big group of people. Is that okay or not okay? I don't know. I'm not going to get into the silencer debate, but the idea that we need to legalize them to protect hunters is absurd. And who has the most power for the gun lobby? It's the NRA. And the NRA wants to convince everyone that, we have these enemies we have to protect ourselves against. And when they could no longer, use terrorism as their fear because 9/11 faded in the minds of the people, their newest commercials are out there saying that the new NRA commercials is this girl who's saying, you need guns to protect ourselves against the violent, crazy left. So the NRA is basically arming people against each other, saying you need to protect yourselves against those who are protesting for the rights of the people within their own country. Just because small groups like Antifa who are out there, causing problems and, burning cars and garbage cans, the media just plays that on a loop. They don't show the peaceful protesters. They don't show the majority of people who know what they want. They show the people who they can interview who sound like they don't know what they're talking about. They show the idiots. It's just like some of the channels who go around interviewing people and saying, look at how stupid Americans are. Look how stupid people are. And they omit, the majority of people who do have a point to make. They want bait. They want clickbait. They want to show that people are stupid. And to me, that's doing a detriment to us as a people. But there are a lot of stupid people out there. And there are a lot of people out there who can't handle themselves. But how to deal with the gun issue? You cannot ban guns. And you cannot legalize machine guns for everyone to buy over the counter either. Who draws the line and who decides where that line should be drawn? And since the people don't really have much of a say anymore, what do? We sit here and argue about the issue and slowly try to take away and give new laws and, any type of approach to trying to eliminate 50-round magazines, high-capacity magazines, is met with they're trying to take our guns away, that they don't want us to be able to protect ourselves. And these are things like this guy had, a whole stockpile of high-capacity magazines. Anybody who plans something like this, though, will get what they want, regardless of whether it's legal or not, of course. The question is, should we make it harder? And I leave that up to, you as the viewer can decide that. I'm not here promoting or saying we should or shouldn't do anyone. I don't have the answers, but I see it from both sides. And it's a complicated issue. And they say, well, it's not a good time to talk about these things. Well, bullshit. It's never a good time to talk about it. The issue is not comparing America to other countries. It's not trying to say, look, we should be more like Finland, or we should be more like Australia, or look what happened over here. America is a case study in itself. It is different than other countries, and we know this. The way that America was set up, it was kind of an escape from persecution elsewhere in the world. And now there are factions in the government who use that against us, but a majority of the money, the idea of banning guns is absurd. I'd like to say that some of the largest money makers in this country are the weapons manufacturers. We run on pills and guns in this country. And those people have more lobbying power than anybody can imagine. We will sell to any country. We will sell to any faction, any group, any rebel movement. We have completely, funded coups to overthrow governments so we could put our own leaders in there. And we wonder why the world's angry, But it's just the world we live in. I don't see any answer. And I was hoping by making this video, maybe towards the end, I would kind of come to a conclusion. But I can't. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't think people should have their rights taken away. I don't think that people should not be able to own certain things, but I don't believe that you should be able to buy hand grenades over the counter, or mines or explosives either. But of course a person can take the time to put them together if they choose. But making it readily available to go out and just buy a bomb over the counter means that somebody who's in a state of mind where perhaps they want to do something would be able to go buy it and do what they want to do. Shoot someone, blow someone up, whatever. It's an extreme case, but it makes you wonder if, having background checks is such a big deal to people. They wanted to close the background check loophole for gun shows. And the gun lobby, and NRA went crazy over it. Why would you not want a background check for people you're giving guns to? I mean, aren't these the same people who say that we need to, keep weapons out of the arms of terrorists and criminals? And to allow anyone to go walk in and just buy a gun without a check. I don't understand the reasoning with that, but I know that the game that's played is that they are trying to take your rights away. And the truth is, it's not they. It's us, as a group, as a society, deciding, whether or not we want to have these types of weapons available to the general public. I don't believe a person should, be able to go down and fit a silencer on buy 20. I won't even get into it. My opinions don't matter. It is what it is. But I also don't want anybody to be stopped from doing what they want to do as a human. But in today's world, we have laws for a reason. If somebody was allowed to walk into your house and steal everything, and there were no repercussions for that, well, we make a law to prevent that. And so when it comes to guns, it's not a political issue at all. They want to make it a political issue. It's a health issue. It's a safety issue. And it's a security issue. So at the very least, making people responsible, held responsible for the decisions they make, but also calling out those who are actually making these laws. The NRA is an absurdity. The NRA used to be about people and their guns and safety and protection and education. Now it's not. Now it's just about gun lobby. It's all about profit. And there is so much money to be made in weapons. So it's just the world we live in. Not sure what to do about it, but I'd say for me as one, I find that this particular case really shows something. This Vegas shooting shows that it doesn't have to be somebody with a gripe. It doesn't have to be somebody that's brown. It could be anybody. And it happens to be a 64-year-old white male who was a gambler and had properties and money. Anybody can be a killer. When more of the studies, when they've done more research and found out, I'm sure that nobody will believe the outcome of it anyway. There are already people with their false flag stories, and they want to blame, ISIL or some other, group. It's always somebody. It's always blaming somebody. Sometimes it just is what it is. In this case, I guess we'll find out. But yeah. If you have any opinions about it, I'd welcome that. I don't know how to really voice it any better than I did. The old idea, guns don't kill people, people kill people. And that's absolutely correct. But people are more likely to kill people if there's more guns. So, what do we do? Questions I can't answer. Take care, everybody. Have a good day and be safe.